Imagine you're 600 feet underwater. The boat has taken on water. The lights are flickering. And the only way out is a steel tube barely big enough to stand in, that you have to flood with seawater before you can even open the hatch above your head. Now, here's the question nobody thinks to ask. Why doesn't the pressure kill you the second that outer hatch opens? At 600 feet, the water outside that submarine is pressing inward at over 260 pounds per square inch. That's roughly 18 times the pressure of the air you're breathing right now. Crack a seal wrong, open a valve in the wrong sequence, and you're not just wet. You're done. And yet, the US Navy has a documented procedure that allows a trained sailor to exit a sunken submarine at that depth and survive. Not theory. Documented, tested, used. The engineering that makes that possible is one of the most precise, brutal, and underappreciated mechanical systems ever built. And today, we're going to break down every single piece of it. To understand why the escape airlock works, you first have to understand why pressure is such a lethal problem. And it's not just about being crushed. The human body is mostly liquid. Liquids don't compress. So in a sense, your body can actually handle a surprising amount of external pressure, as long as the pressure changes slowly and evenly. The danger isn't the pressure itself. The danger is the change in pressure. Here's the physics. Boyle's law tells us that as pressure increases, gas volume decreases proportionally. The air in your lungs at 600 feet would compress to about 1/18 of its surface volume. Try to breathe normal air at sea level pressure while the water outside is at 260 pounds per square inch, and the pressure differential will rupture your lungs like a paper bag. That's called a pulmonary barotrauma, and it's fatal. Then there's nitrogen narcosis. At depth, nitrogen dissolves into your blood under pressure. Ascend too fast, and that nitrogen comes back out of solution inside your bloodstream as bubbles. That's decompression sickness, the bends. It can cause paralysis, stroke, and death. So the challenge the engineers faced wasn't just, how do we get a man out of a submarine? It was, how do we move a human body through a catastrophic pressure gradient without killing him from the inside out? The answer is the escape airlock. And it is, in every sense of the word, a machine designed to keep a man alive during one of the most physically hostile transitions a human body can experience. The escape trunk, also called the escape airlock or escape hatch, is a cylindrical steel chamber, typically about 26 to 30 inches in diameter and roughly 6 feet tall. It's built directly into the pressure hull of the submarine, positioned vertically so one hatch opens down into the boat and one hatch opens up toward the ocean. It is, functionally, a pressure equalization chamber, an airlock. Its entire purpose is to allow the inside and outside pressures to be brought into balance before any hatch is opened. Let's walk through the mechanism. The lower hatch, the one inside the submarine, is a classic pressure-sealed design. Heavy steel, rubber gasket, locking dogs that cam against the frame under load. When the submarine is at depth, the pressure of the air inside the boat actually helps seal this hatch. The higher the external pressure, the tighter it locks. You cannot force that lower hatch open from the outside. Physics won't allow it. The upper hatch, the one facing the ocean, works on the same principle, but inverted. When there's pressure in the escape trunk Matching the sea pressure outside, the hatch can be opened, but only then. Between those two hatches is the equalization system, and this is where the mechanical engineering gets genuinely impressive. There are two primary valves in the escape trunk, the flood valve and the pressurization valve, sometimes called the blow-in valve or the equalization valve, depending on the submarine class. The flood valve is a manually operated through-hull valve that allows seawater to enter the trunk from outside. It's built like a plug cock, a tapered conical plug inside a matching conical seat turned 90 degrees to open, heavy, precise. It has to seal against the full sea pressure when closed and meter the incoming water when open. The pressurization valve, or HP air blow, does the opposite. It's connected to the submarine's high-pressure air banks, which store compressed air at over 3,000 pounds per square inch. This valve allows the crew to inject compressed air into the trunk, pressurizing it from below without flooding it. Why two systems? Because depending on the emergency, you may need one or the other, or both in sequence. Now let us run the actual procedure. This is the part that separates theoretical engineering from the brutally practical reality of submarine escape. The submariner enters the escape trunk from below, alone or with one other man, depending on trunk size. The lower hatch is shut and dogged. He's now in a sealed steel tube with two valves, a breathing mask, and a one-way ticket. Step 1. Pressurize the trunk. He cracks the high-pressure air valve. Compressed air from the ship's banks begins filling the space around him. The pressure climbs. His ears ache. He clears them, the same as a diver equalizing on descent. The air roars in. The pressure gauge on the bulkhead ticks upward, 10 pounds per square inch above ambient, then 20, 50, 100. He's watching that gauge like his life depends on it, because it does. The target pressure is sea pressure at that depth. At 600 feet, roughly 183 meters, that's approximately 265 pounds per square inch, absolute. The trunk pressure has to match the outside water pressure, or the upper hatch will not open. It's not a safety interlock in the electronic sense. It's just physics. Equal pressure on both sides of a hatch means zero net force. Zero net force means the hatch can move. Step 2. Open the upper hatch. With pressures equalized, he rotates the locking ring, retracts the dogs, and pushes. The hatch swings up into the black water. There's no explosion of inrushing sea, no catastrophic flooding, just an opening, a circle of dark, pressurized ocean above his head. Step 3. Ascent. And here's the part that seems physically impossible until you understand it. He does not hold his breath on the way up. He exhales continuously, the entire way. Why? Because as he ascends, the water pressure decreases. The air in his lungs, now at 265 pounds per square inch, begins to expand as external pressure drops. If he holds his breath, that air has nowhere to go. His lungs will overexpand and rupture. So he breathes out continuously, letting the expanding air escape freely. His lungs act as an open pipe, not a sealed vessel. The submarine escape immersion equipment, the SEIE suit used by the Royal Navy, or the older Steinker hood used by the US Navy, provides positive buoyancy to drive the ascent and a gas reservoir to support that continuous exhalation. At controlled ascent rates, a trained submariner can survive a free ascent from 600 feet. The Navy has practiced it. The Royal Navy has a pressurized training tower in Gosport, England, 100 feet tall, filled with water, specifically built to train submariners on this exact procedure. What makes the escape airlock remarkable as a piece of engineering isn't just that it works. It's the margins it's designed to. Everything in that trunk is overbuilt by a factor that would seem excessive, until you remember the conditions it has to function in. The trunk itself is fabricated from high-yield steel, HY80 or HY100 in most US Navy applications. That designation means the steel yields at 80,000 or 100,000 pounds per square inch. For comparison, standard structural steel yields around 36,000 pounds per square inch. The extra strength isn't just for depth rating, it's for blast resistance, shock loading from depth charges or collision, and decades of operational life. The hatch dogs, the locking mechanisms, are designed to the same standard. Cast or machined from high-strength alloy steel, they lock into a recessed groove in the hull frame with a cam action that actually tightens under load. The harder you press from outside, the tighter the seal. A clever piece of mechanical geometry. The valves are rated well above operational sea pressure, typically to 1.5 times the maximum design depth pressure. Seals are natural rubber or neoprene, inspected on every major maintenance cycle. Valve stems are Monel or stainless steel, corrosion resistant in seawater, dimensionally stable over temperature. And the entire system is designed to be operated by one man, in the dark, with cold hands, under stress, with no power. Every control is manual. Every handle has tactile indicators. The sequence is trained until it is muscle memory, because in the scenario where you actually need this system, you will not be calm, you will not be warm, and you may not have much time. That design philosophy, foolproof, fail-safe, manually operable under the worst conditions imaginable, is the signature of serious naval engineering. No computer can save you at 600 feet. It has to be steel and valves and the training in your hands. A road roller makes the ground vibrate. Impressive in its own right. But there is something different about an engineering system whose only job is keeping a man alive in conditions that should, by all rights, kill him. The submarine escape airlock does not look like much. A steel cylinder, 2 hatches, a couple of valves, no electronics, no moving parts beyond what you operate with your hands. But behind every dimension of that cylinder, every thread pitch on every valve stem, every durometer rating on every seal, there are engineers who understood exactly what 260 pounds per square inch of seawater does to the human body. And they designed a machine that lets a man walk through it anyway. That is not just engineering. That is respect for the men who go to sea in steel boats, and the absolute refusal to accept that there is no way home. If you want to see how other heavy-duty naval systems work, from ballast control to torpedo tube mechanics, let us know in the comments. We read every one.